So one question that often comes up is, well, this is great, but what if I don't actually receive in words? Like, what if I've never really heard words in my mind when I'm praying or when I'm communicating with higher beings? And so one thing to say is that um, that should probably be that could probably fill a whole 2 hour seminar. Frankly, that could fill a whole day long seminar. And maybe we should actually do that. But, just briefly, there are many, many, many ways to receive guidance from spirit, and there is no hierarchy of ways to receive. So, whatever way that you receive is perfect and wonderful and will get you to the end goal. It really doesn't matter. So, here's some examples. You might have a deep knowing just bubble up within you, a knowing that isn't in words, like it's not like you hear someone whisper in your ear, this is the right answer. It's not like you see anything per se. You just have this deep knowing, appear within you or bubble up within you. And that knowing then kind of resolves itself in your mind into an expression of what that knowing is. So like I think one of our examples was about helping a friend, and so you might have this deep knowing that like here's a way that you can express generosity, which is a higher principle in the light, while still being respectful of their boundaries and of your need to maintain healthy boundaries, something like that, right? So it'll resolve itself into some kind of knowing that you can express, but it starts as this just deep knowing of this is the answer that I've been seeking. This is the way forward. You might feel like one sentence in your mind get really magnified, right? Like you can't shake it or you can't let go of it, or your mind keeps coming back to it. And now, normally that experience, if you were out in the regular world, we would say like, well, that's just your mind. That's just the anxious mind, or that's just the lower mind, like, ruminating and gyrating and kind of like gnawing on a bone and not letting it go. But in the space that we are in, that we curate, the container is wildly relevant. The beautiful temple space that we create is wildly relevant here. When we've created this beautiful container, we've created sacred space all around us and within us, then the things that bubble up in our mind that feel really vital, that feel like they have some feeling of oomph to them, or some feeling of big presence, or some feeling of like really, really important, those things, we should pay attention to them, because that's spirit, like trying to get our attention, trying to grab onto our attention, right? And we've created this space where mind is relaxed. Remember, we gave mind the microphone. We gave mind the spotlight to begin with. We gave mind all of the opportunity that it needs to let go of its ruminating thoughts. And then we dissolved those thoughts. We dissolved all of that. We let it all go. We let it blow away into the wind. So at this point, the things in this sacred space that we've created around us and within us, having dissolved mind, then the things that bubble up in our minds are highly relevant, and we should pay attention to them. So it's totally different than if you're just walking down the street ruminating. It's a totally different thing altogether. And I think you will definitely feel that if that is how spirit communicates with you. You might just have a kind of gut feeling of like this, this is the answer. This right here, this, right? Some of you might get a visual. Um, you might get a visual like I don't mean to put visuals in your head, but you might get a visual of the if you're talking to particularly maybe Ganesha, you might get a visual of like you're clapping or like yes that you might get a visual or you might get a visual of like you doing the thing or like the answer might show up in your mind as a visual. So like you giving the gift to your friend or you attending the initiation or the spiritual study uh, and the sensation of uh, ease and confidence and like everything's okay and or you might get a visual of like the exact uh, you know email that you write your boss with the words. Some people really do get it that in that much detail. Not everyone, maybe not even many people, but some people do, right? So I'm mentioning it. You might have the outer world prompted by the mysteries of spirit come and join you. For example, you might have a bird land on the windowsill of your meditation room and look you dead in the eye for just a moment, right? Before it flies off, right? And when you look up the meaning of that bird in Animal Speaks or some dictionary of the spiritual meaning of different animals, right? You might find the meaning of that bird is, wildly, totally relevant. Like, if it's a raven, uh, first of all, there are not many ravens in the city, but there are. So if it's a raven, right? And then, well, a raven is the bird that flies in the world of mystery, right? In the world of magic, and so then you should probably go get that initiation, right? You should probably go to that. You should probably go to that course of study because Raven is here looking you dead in the eyeballs, something like that. Or you might it might be a bird with like a gift in its mouth that it's going to bring to its partner bird. And but it's particularly like looking at you, and the gift that's in its mouth is like highly emphasized, and so then you might be like, I get it, like I need to give my friend this gift, right? I need to embody generosity. Here's the universe talking to me about generosity, right? So another way that you might receive is that as you sit with the being, either your higher self or the angel or the master of light, that as you sit in the space with this being, you may find that even if you think you're not receiving really anything, that by the time is over and the room goes back to feeling like a room, you may find that your attitude or your perspective has simply changed, like that you have simply changed. And if you can catch that and notice it, that is just as good as that being speaking to you. I mean, frankly, it's kind of better. Like they've changed the dial for you, you know? But we need to notice these things, right? We need to pay attention. So if you notice that, like, wow, going into this process, I really felt like there was no way that this was going to happen. And now that I'm coming out of this process, I noticed that I feel like this is going to be easy, and I'm not even worried about it. And like I'm thinking of 12 ways that this could happen, and I know that one of them is going to hit and stick. That's equally spirit communicating with you. They're just communicating with you by making adjustments within your inner world, and we opened ourselves to the receptivity towards that. You might find that as you sit in the energy of this being that you've called in, you might notice your mind sort of trending in a particular direction that's relevant, but maybe like it comes from out of the blue, like you wouldn't ever have thought of that on your own. That's one of my favorite things that can arise because it really helps convince me that this is really spirit and not me. Like, to use the example of like whether I should help my friend out or not, if my mind has been fixated on questions of like whether I should give them some money to help them out or not, and whether that would be overstepping or blah, 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 this thing, that thing. But then when I call in Isis, if suddenly I'm sitting with Isis in this room and the room feels totally transformed and I just feel this vast presence, and suddenly my mind starts thinking about royalty. Like I've not thought about royalty, not ever. Do you know what I mean? Not ever, not once in this whole scenario has my mind trended or thought about royalty. And suddenly I'm thinking about royalty. And then I'm thinking about like what is the deeper meaning? Why do we have royals anyway? And then I come to think about, ancient traditions, and I start thinking about giving and generosity and like caring for people, taking care of people. Do you know what I mean? Like this is really, the message is like, the real royalty, the true royalty is one who takes care of the beings that are around them, takes care of their people, So maybe you should take care of your friend, right? I'm just as an example, right? So when you find your mind trending in a direction that's totally out of the blue, that's spirit communicating with you, right? That's a great indication that spirit is communicating with you. You might also like have a strong feeling of some kind of presence, and then a kind of stillness, and then maybe like one word or like one short sentence really feels strong, maybe almost like a whisper. You might perhaps feel like you received nothing. I mean, you had a lovely time in this like divine temple of energy with this glorious being, and it felt wonderful, but you didn't really feel like you received anything necessarily. But then you turn on the radio. I mean, I don't know if people turn on radios nowadays. You turn on the radio or Spotify or like Twitch, and you open to something, and the first song that comes on, the lyric is like, I don't know, whatever it is. And it's like super, it's like, it like immediately hits you, right? There's some kind of numinous resonance there between you actually were receiving lots, because we're never not receiving from the light, from spirit. You were receiving lots. And then there's this resonance between what you received that's like pregnant within you, and this song just like brings it out. Or sometimes when I feel stuck, if you have a lot of various spiritual books, I just like go to my bookshelf of spiritual books, and I'll just randomly take a book and randomly open it to a page. And as you're just like sort of casually letting your gaze wander, passages will start leaping out of the book, and you'll feel a resonance between those passages and the meditation you just had with that higher being. So that can be another way to just kind of tease out, if you're not a person who receives in words or in visuals, it doesn't matter. You're still receiving. Okay. Now, one last sort of suggestion for people who feel like they don't receive, or who struggle, maybe you feel like, I know I received something, but it's just sort of stuck, is it can be really helpful to give your mind the out by pretending. play the game of pretend. Okay. Like, okay, what if, what if I pretend, what if I make up a story that Ganesha really was here in my room? What if that were true? I'm just going to make up a story. What would he say? Like, if Archangel Gabriel showed up in my room to give me a message, could I just pretend that that might have happened? I'm just going to make a fantasy. What would he say after "Don't be afraid"? Which for some reason they always feel the need to say. After "Don't be afraid," what would he, fear not, what would he say, right? And you just make up a story. Just allow yourself to write a story. Allow your ego to hold the stance that you're just indulging in a fantasy. And I just like, don't try to write something that you think you've received. Literally just write a story, write a fantasy novel, right? But of course, you know secretly, this is the ninja move, right? You know you did all the practices. You created sacred space, you toned, you invoked the being, you did receive. You're going to be writing exactly what is relevant and perfect for you. And as you read back what you've written, the story that you've written, which for the entire time that you're writing, you should allow it to just be totally a cockamamie fantasy, totally made up. It has no bearing on anything. I'm just literally writing a story, a bedtime story to myself, right? But as you read it over afterwards, you'll be shocked at how much feels intensely resonant. Maybe not all of it will, but certain things that you've written will just like leap off the page and will be like, oh my God, there it is. Right? So sometimes that pretense can really be helpful to get the ball rolling. Now, of course, as we go deeper in our spiritual training, right, our skills will naturally improve. And so all throughout, the teachings that we offer, we keep helping our community to hone and refine these skills of receiving, right? This is an area that you can definitely get better at over time. Definitely. With practice, with guidance, with teaching, So you can look at the calendar on our website under the Learn tab to find various classes that are offered that all will help you with this topic area, right? But no matter where you are in your journey of spiritual development, you will for sure through this process receive wonderful information and guidance. You will.